Alright guys, welcome to the video notes. So we're going to be going through a couple of different things here. What we're solving for today is based around kind of what we solved for yesterday. And yesterday, remember, we learned how to find the volume of a cylinder. Which we know, in order to find the volume of anything, we're going to take the base, the area of the base, let me say area of the base times the height. So the area of the base times the height is going to give us the volume. And something we didn't really address is what is this idea of volume. Volume is the space. Let me go back up to where it actually says this. Volume is the amount of space that a substance or object occupies, or that is enclosed within a container. So the idea is like with a can of soda. The volume of that can of soda is the amount of soda that fits inside it. The volume of a basketball is the amount of air you can put inside the basketball. So if I'm looking at the volume of a cylinder, I know it's the area of the base times the height. Area of the base, remember, is pi times the radius squared times the height is equal to the volume. So knowing that, today we are going to adapt that a little bit in order to find the volume of a cone. So to find the volume of a cone, we first solve for the volume of a cylinder. We first solve for the volume of a cylinder, just like we did yesterday and we practiced up above. Then all we do is we divide the volume of that cylinder by 3. Every time you divide by 3 for a cone. Never by 4, never by 2. You always divide by 3. So just for an example, let's go through these two. Find the volume of the cone shown below. And I see this. Leave your answer in terms of pi, just like we talked about yesterday. Unless it tells us specifically, we can actually leave our answer in terms of pi. That is the more accurate answer because we're not rounding anything. Now, find the volume of the cone shown below. Leave your answer in terms of pi. So I know that the radius is 18. Let me back up really quickly. Every time I need to find volume, I'm first going to write volume equals, and I'm going to write my equation. Pi times the radius squared times the height, this time divided by 3 because we're solving for a cone, which is 1/3 the size of a cylinder. And that's just something you need to memorize. A cylinder is pi times the radius squared times the height, because that's the base. Pi times the radius squared is how you find the area of a circle. And then I multiply by the height in order to stack it up. So volume is pi times the radius squared times height divided by 3. I'm going to plug in the things that I know so far. Volume is equal to pi. Pi is always pi. The radius in this case is 18 squared times 27, because I see that is the height of this whole thing. If I were to tip it over, that would be the height. And then I divide this whole thing by 3. Now, something that I want to really quickly address that I saw a lot of yesterday. 18 is the radius here because it is half the distance across the circle. If 18 were actually this, that's the diameter because it's the entire distance across the circle. But in this case, we have 18 as the radius. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, well, what is my radius squared? And let me pull this up. So we say 18 squared, I can use this button right here, 18 squared is 324. So now I find out volume is equal to pi times 324 times 27. Let me go in and actually do the rest of this multiplication times 27 gives me 8,748. But I hope you noticed I forgot something key here. I need this divided by 3. And then we're going to bring this up here. So I have, let me check, 8,748. 8,748 pi times pi divided by 3. So if this were a cylinder with these dimensions, it would be 8,748 pi. But because it's a cone, I see the second step up here says I need to divide by 3. So divided by 3. So the volume of this cone is 2,900, I didn't even read that, 2,916 pi. Now, this is almost fully correct. I need to do one more thing, which is add my units. If I don't add my units, I'm going to get this wrong. So I say it's 2,916 pi millimeters. And I know I'm talking about a 3-dimensional shape. So I put a 3 up here, cubed. So 2,916 pi millimeters cubed. And I can do that because it says right here, leave your answer in terms of pi. So I'm done. I don't need to do anything else. So that's great. Take a moment. Make sure you understand this. We're going to take a brief pause, and then we are going to go and do part B of this. Now we're on part B. A cone has a height of 6 inches and a circumference at the base of 18 pi inches. What is the approximate value for the cone? Well, there's actually a couple different things that I need to do in here. The first thing I need to do is I'm going to sketch this out just so I can see what I'm talking about. So I have, remember I'm not an art teacher, I have this cone where the height of this cone is 6 inches and the circumference of the base is 18 inches. So I know the circumference is equal to 18 pi. And I try to think to myself, well, what does circumference mean? Circumference is, if you don't recall, circumference is the diameter times pi. So this actually works out really well in my favor. I know what the diameter is. It's right here. It is 18. So the diameter, let me do this in a different color so it's easier to see. The diameter is 18 inches. Now, take a moment and make sure you understand why that's the case. Rewind if you're confused. So I have the diameter. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to plug in the info I know. I know that the volume of a cone is equal to pi times the radius squared times the height, all divided by 3. Well, I don't have some of these details yet, so I need to figure them out. I know that the volume is equal to, let's plug in what I do have, pi. Pi is always pi. Radius, I don't have the radius right now, so give me a second. I do have the height, which is 6, and 3 is always 3. So what is the radius? The radius is half of the diameter. It's just halfway across the circle, not the full way across the circle. So just so you see, I can't put 18 here. I'm going to put 9 squared because 9 is half of 18. If the diameter is 18, the radius is half the diameter. That's just always the way it is. So the radius is half of the diameter, therefore the diameter is 2 radii, or 2 radiuses. That's a whole different thing. So let's get back into this. So now I say, great, let's carry some of this out. Volume is equal to pi. Pi is always pi. 9 squared is 81 times 6, all divided by 3. And again, I'm dividing by 3 because it's a cone. So I come in here and I say, well, 81 times 6 is 486. So I say V is equal to pi times 486, all divided by 3. So I go in and I say, well, what's 486 divided by 3? It is 162. So the volume of this is 162 pi. And there's actually two things that I still need to do here. First thing is I need to add my units, which I know is inches cubed. And in this case, though, I hope some of you noticed something. This would not get full credit. Here's why. This is an example of what I was telling you guys about yesterday, where it says use 3.14 for pi. This time it wants us to actually be specific. So the last step I have to do here is actually very easy. I say 162 times pi is 162 times 3.14. And I would just carry out this multiplication. I'll just do it by hand because it seems faster to do it that way. 4, it's a 2, 4, 6, add a 0 as a placeholder. 2, 6, 1, 2 zeros as placeholders, those are gone. 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 6 is 18, 3 times, that's 4, I get 8, 6, that is 18, 0, 5, and the decimal needs to move twice. So I get my final volume using 3.14 for pi as 508.68 inches cubed. Now I want you to see what the difference is when you say use 3.14 for pi versus actually using pi. So we come in here and we got 162 times 3.14 and we got 508.68, this answer right here. But that's not completely correct. If we round it, so 162 times actual pi, this is actually pi. Hopefully you see how much we rounded that. My correct answer technically would be 508.93800988154650 and so on and so forth. So you see 508, that's fine. 0.68, 0.938. There's actually a pretty big difference here, which is why this answer that we got over on part A was more correct. But here it specifically says use 3.14 for pi. So that's what we did. Using that information, what you're going to do is you're going to come down to the partner practice, and with your partners, you're going to calculate your volume based on this. Please note one of these says leave your answer in terms of pi, and the other says use 3.14.